So if I hit, does it just...
Yeah, just press it.
Okay, just before I get into the presentation, my name's Stefan. I'm an architect and technical author for the NBS. I come out of professional practice at the beginning of the year, and my background really extends to commercial architecture. Before that, it was a lot of retail, Tesco, Sainsbury's and the like. I've got an MSc in construction project management. I'm also a registered CDM coordinator. So I'm really interested in the non-graphical side attributes of BIM. So if I press this, I kick off, yep. Okay, sorry to sort of show these curves. I know we see them time and time again. This was taken from the investors report, and what we're looking at here is some exemplar projects, and we're looking at the potential upside to BIM. And clearly these slides are showing that the main potential benefit is towards the end of the project, but we haven't really got that sort of information yet, tangible information. I imagine when we NBS started out in 1973, our journey into BIM is very much like that. Even though I wasn't born in 1973, it's very much a new digital world, and we want to be in the centre of that in terms of information. RIBA Insight done some market research for us, and just looking at the sort of potential market share, facility managers 33%. That's quite a big chunk there. So it's certainly a market that we need to consider. Rethinking FM. This was a report accelerating change through best practice. A little bit old now, 2004, but predominantly this looked at facility managers and the roles that they do. So, you know, post room, finance, it's a real mix of things. It's not just necessarily the hard FM, which I'm coming on to. So, looking at hard and soft FM, from a construction point and a background, I always think of FM as the asset, you know, the walls, the floors, but we also need to consider soft FM. Who's actually buying staff uniforms, canteen, vending machine provisions. Done a little bit of research. That's J.K. Rowling on the left. We know her book sales are not too bad. Looking at the RIBA bookshop, I did a search for facilities management. I mean, the figures speak for themselves. It's not a lot, really. Really as low as that. So I was very surprised. RIBA publishing, facilities management, FM, no results. Safety file 2 results, and then we've got the two APS guides, Guide to Management of CDM Coordination and the Design Risk Management 2007. So considering we're seeing the potential benefits of BIM in this area, certainly from our organisation, there's not a lot. NBS TV, that's an online CPD that we offer. Unfortunately my notes have disappeared off the bottom of here, but there wasn't too many results on there. Again with RIBA CPD and Reba Product Selector. So I think going forward we need to look at this in a little bit more detail. Building smart FM software. So I know we had a good talk earlier from a gentleman talking about the software, which was Actra. There's 2 of them which are UK based. So there are quite a few softwares out there. The BIFM produced a document there selecting the best FM software. Associations in this sector, we've got the British Institute of Facilities Management in the UK, and then we've also got the International Facilities Management Association. BS 15221, we can get some terms and definitions of what facilities management is, and then we've of course got the CDM regulations and health and safety. The IFMA do a virtual catalogue, and there's quite a bit of software and journals, etc. So there is a little bit more in there in terms of briefing, but certainly on RIBA Enterprises we're not embellishing that as much. Soft landing, I know we've also talked about that earlier, and there's the Sydney Opera House, which I'm going to come on to. So soft landings, what is soft landings? Basically it's bridging that gap from handover. So it's a 3-year, it's a framework, and I think this is something we really need to adopt going forward, and it will help us engage and produce better buildings. So the Sydney Opera House, 20th century icon, and they had the task of how do they actually manage this facility. So what they've done was they looked at this as making this as actually an exemplar project. A lot of tourist trade and economy is pinned on this particular building for Australia. So they looked at three different areas. One, digital modelling, services procurement, and then they looked at performance benchmarking. And they looked to try and integrate these to achieve the overall business driver and actually get best value. So it's probably worth getting hold of this document if you can. What's quite interesting, asset dependency to service. They looked at the interrelationships between these things. So if we look at visitor facilities, for example, public toilets, that could have a big impact on visitor experience, high. But it's not going to have such an impact on the building and the property. We look at security systems, CCTV, it's going to be quite low on performances taken there, but it's going to have high impact on the actual building. And that's looked at sort of visitor experience and assessed performance. So in the case of visitor experiences, they looked at tour attendances, number of people paying to actually go on these tours. So they're actually trying to make connections. National BIM Library, from the NBS, we recently going to launch our phase 2 content, and we've looked at three sources of data for these objects: IFC, COBE information, and our own MBL parameters. So we've got a rich source of information for the COBE, which will hopefully help the FM stage. What BIM has done, it's really brought specification a lot earlier in the process, so we can go from generic to installed, rather than waiting to the end of the project and just putting as-built information in. What we can do is we can test that in real time, performance, cost, as the design's going along. We really just, I've lost it now. So we've had a look at trialing some FM sections. We've in NBS building. This is NBS create in some of the landscape sections. Particularly, we're looking at maintenance, so in terms of vegetation, when do you cut the grass, etc., etc. So we need to embellish that a little bit more. And these are my final thoughts. We need to support the time frame a little bit longer. So once we've handed the building over, how do we flag changes such as building reg changes? You know, things may have changed, moved on 5-10 years down the line. How do we report ownership changes? We also need to support more players, not just the architects. So let's think about facilities managers and these other people that are engaged in the process. Thank you very much.